The scream behind the alley. Keanu Reeves had just finished a quiet walk through downtown Los Angeles. He was wearing a gray hoodie, jeans, and a tired smile. The sun had set an hour ago, and the streets were beginning to empty. He liked walking. At this time, no cameras, no crowds, just the city and his thoughts. His latest film had wrapped, and he wanted peace, not applause. As he passed a narrow alley between two old apartment buildings, he paused. A strange sound came from inside. At first, he thought it was just the wind or a trash can lid flipping over, but then came the second sound, sharper, urgent. A small voice, a scream. He stopped cold. It was not the scream of an angry teenager or a loud couple fighting. It was the scream of a child. A girl. Keanu turned his head, heart thudding faster. The alley was dim. There was no one else nearby. He stepped back and looked around. A few cars passed on the street behind him, unaware. The city didn't notice, but Keanu did. He walked into the alley, slowly, cautiously. The concrete was wet. From a leaking pipe, old boxes lined the walls. Broken glass crunched under his boots. He listened, then he heard it again, muffled crying. His feet moved faster now. He turned a corner near a dumpster and stopped. A man in a black hoodie had a little girl by the wrist. She looked about 7. Curly hair, scared eyes. She had a small backpack with a cartoon bear on it. Her mouth was covered with tape, and she was kicking helplessly. Keanu didn't shout. He didn't hesitate. He ran forward and yelled only one word, "Hey!" The man turned in shock, loosened his grip for a second. That was enough. The little girl twisted away, fell to the ground, and crawled toward the wall. The man pulled something from his jacket. A knife. Keanu didn't flinch. He stepped in, fast and hard. His training from years of action films wasn't just for show. He blocked the man's arm, grabbed his wrist, twisted it, and forced the weapon down. The man resisted, but Keanu's calm rage burned deep. This wasn't a movie. This was real. Within seconds, the man was on the ground. The knife had slid away. Keanu pinned him, breathing hard. "Call the police," he said, looking to the girl. But she was still frozen in fear. So he reached into his pocket and gently placed his phone next to her. "Press the green button," he said softly. Her tiny fingers shook, but she did it. When the police arrived minutes later, they found the kidnapper, face down, zip-tied with shoelaces Keanu had pulled from his own boots. The little girl sat in his arms, sobbing into his chest. Officers took the man into custody. A paramedic wrapped a blanket around the girl. She refused to leave Keanu's side. "What's your name?" "Sweetheart," he asked gently. She whispered. "Emma," he smiled. "You're safe now, Emma. I promise." That night, photos leaked. Blurry phone pictures of Keanu Reeves sitting on the curb, holding a little girl in a blanket. No red carpet, no spotlight, just a quiet hero and a child who had almost been taken from the world. By morning, the story went viral. But that wasn't what mattered to Keanu. What mattered was the way Emma looked at him, like he had saved her whole world. What he didn't know yet was how she was about to save his. The letter Emma never meant to send. Next morning, Keanu sat at his kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee in his hand. He hadn't slept much. Images of the alley, the knife, the fear in Emma's eyes, they kept looping through his mind. He had seen fear before, in movies, in real life. But this was different. This had touched something deeper. He picked up his phone and scrolled through. The news. His face was everywhere. "Keanu Reeves saves little girl from kidnapping," headlines read. Some called him a hero. Others called him brave. He didn't feel like either. He felt heavy, like part of him had been changed forever in that alley. Just then, his doorbell rang. He opened the door and found a police officer standing there, holding a small envelope. "This was left at the station," the officer said. "It's from the little girl. She asked us to bring it to you." Keanu took the envelope with quiet hands. He sat back down at the table and opened it slowly. Inside was a folded note written in crayon on line paper. "Dear Mr. Keanu, I was really scared. I thought I was going to go away forever. But then you came. I don't know who you are. Mama says you're famous, but to me, you're the man who made the monster go away. Thank you. I don't have a dad. But last night, I wished I did. I wished it was you. Love. Emma. Keanu stared at the letter. His fingers gripped the edges. His chest tightened. Something inside him cracked just a little. He hadn't expected this. He hadn't expected a 7-year-old girl to open a door in his heart that had been shut for so long. His own childhood wasn't easy. His father had left when he was young. He had always felt the absence, always carried the weight of that silence, and now, this little girl abandoned by her own father was calling out to him. In the most innocent way, he wiped his eyes and folded the letter carefully. Later that day, he called the officer back. "Can I visit her?" he asked. "Emma," the officer replied. "She's staying with a foster family while child services work out a safe solution. But I think she'd really like that." The next afternoon, Keanu walked into a modest home on the edge of the city. The foster parents were kind and warm. The living room smelled like cookies and old furniture. Emma sat on the carpet, drawing on the same kind of paper she used for the letter. When she saw him, her eyes lit up. She didn't say a word. She just ran into his arms. And for a moment, everything in Keanu's life, his movies, his fame, his quiet sadness melted into the background. He was just a man holding a child who needed someone. Emma pulled back and showed him her drawing. It was to stick figures, one small, one tall. Both were smiling. The tall one had long hair and a big heart drawn over his chest. "That's you," she said. "And that's me. I love it," he whispered. The foster mother offered them juice and cookies, and they sat on the couch like old friends. Emma talked about school, her favorite cartoons, and how her mom used to sing to her before things went bad. She didn't speak much about her real father. Keanu didn't ask. He didn't need to. He understood the pain of missing someone who was supposed to stay. As he drove home later that evening, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. He wasn't just Keanu Reeves the actor anymore. He was something else. Now. And deep down, he knew this wasn't the end of the story. Something bigger was coming. Something that would test him in ways he didn't expect. Because in trying to save a little girl, he might have just found the very thing he never knew. He was missing family. A knock at midnight. A week had passed since Keanu Reeves first held Emma in that alley. In those 7 days, something inside him had shifted. He visited Emma twice more, each time bringing her small gifts, nothing expensive, just things that made her smile: crayons, a soft scarf, a tiny stuffed dog that reminded her of the one she lost. Emma had stopped calling him Mr. Keanu. Now she just called him K. She told him he had kind eyes, and he told her she had the strongest heart he'd ever known. But one night, everything changed again. Keanu was sitting in his dimly lit living room. The fire crackled softly. His phone lay untouched beside him. He wasn't reading. He wasn't watching anything. He was just sitting there thinking about her, about the way she laughed when she drew silly faces, about the way she hugged him, like she'd known him forever. Then, just after midnight, someone knocked at the door. It wasn't loud, just a slow knocks. He stood up, confused. Visitors didn't come at that hour, and his home was gated. Someone had to be let in. He opened the door carefully. Standing there was a woman, thin, tired, soaked from the rain that had started minutes earlier. Her hands trembled, and her eyes, red and hollow, looked up at him like she already knew him. "Are you Keanu?" she asked in a shaky voice. He nodded slowly. "Yes." She reached into her coat and pulled out a folded photo. It was old, faded. In the photo was a little girl in a pink dress, a man beside her, a woman with her arm wrapped around her protectively. "I'm her mother," she said. "Emma is my daughter." Keanu felt the air freeze in his lungs. He let her inside. She sat by the fire, holding the warm cup of tea he made. Her hands barely stopped shaking. Her name was Rachel, and she hadn't seen her daughter in over 3 months. "I didn't leave her," she said, almost whispering. "I was taken by someone who said he would protect us, someone I thought I could trust." Her voice cracked as she told him the story about the man who came into their lives after Emma's father disappeared, how he offered to help, how he slowly took control, how Rachel was isolated, then locked in a basement for weeks, beaten, kept silent. "I escaped 2 nights ago," she said. I didn't know where to go. But when I saw the news, when I saw her face in your arms, I knew I had to find you." Keanu listened, stunned. This wasn't just a rescue story anymore. It was deeper, darker. "You saved my daughter," she said, tears running down her cheeks. "But now, please, can you help me get her back?" Keanu didn't speak for a moment. His chest ached. This woman had suffered things that were hard to imagine, and now she sat there, asking for a second chance with the little girl who had started calling him family. He finally spoke. "I'll help you," he said gently. "But we have to do it right. The law, child services, they'll need to know everything." Rachel nodded. "I'll tell them. I'll tell anyone. I just want my daughter to know I didn't leave her." Keanu reached out and placed a hand over hers. "We'll tell her together," he said. But deep down, he knew things wouldn't be simple. He had already seen what darkness could do to a child's life. What he didn't know yet was that the man who had taken Rachel wasn't finished. He was watching, and he was angry. And the moment Rachel walked into Keanu's home, a chain of events had begun, events that would put all their lives in danger again. But this time, Keanu wasn't going to let anyone take Emma away. Not again. Shadows returned the next morning. Keanu drove Rachel to the child services office. She wore fresh clothes he had given her, simple jeans and a sweatshirt, and her hair was pulled back. With shaking hands, she looked stronger in the daylight, but her eyes still held fear, deep fear, the kind that didn't fade with sleep. The social worker at the desk was kind but cautious. She asked many questions. Rachel told her everything about the man named Colby, how he came into their life with charm and promises, how he slowly turned violent, how she was trapped for weeks, and how she finally escaped and found her way to Keanu. The worker took notes, then stepped out to call the authorities and confirm the records. When she returned, she said softly, "We believe you, and if everything checks out, you'll be reunited with Emma soon." Rachel nodded. Her lips trembled. Keanu put a hand on her shoulder. They walked out of the building into the sunlight. But across the street, parked quietly behind a food truck, a pair of eyes watched them from inside a black van. The man inside clenched the steering wheel as he recognized Rachel's face. Colby. He hadn't expected her to survive, and he hadn't expected her to show up on the news, standing next to a movie star. He hated being exposed, and now his control was slipping. He picked up a burner phone and dialed a number. His voice was low. "We have a problem." That afternoon, Emma was brought to a quiet room in the Child Services Center. Toys on the floor, drawings on the walls. She looked around nervously. Then the door opened and Rachel stepped inside. At first, Emma froze. Then her eyes widened. Then she ran into her mother's arms and didn't let go. Rachel held her close, crying into her daughter's hair. "I'm here," she whispered over and over. "I'm here, baby. I didn't leave you." Emma didn't speak, but her hands clutched tightly to her mother's back. Keanu watched from the other side of the glass window, silent. A caseworker stood beside him. "Thank you for bringing her mother back," she said softly. Keanu nodded. They belonged together. The reunion was emotional, fragile. Rachel was not allowed to take Emma home just yet, but supervised visits were now approved. Things were moving in the right direction. But later that evening, back at Keanu's home, something felt wrong. He returned from a grocery run and noticed the side gate slightly open. It was always locked. He stepped carefully into his backyard. The breeze was still. Nothing moved. But something inside him, an old instinct from years of danger on movie sets and life, told him he wasn't alone. He walked around to the far side of the house. There it was. Etched into the wooden fence with a knife, one single word: mine. Keanu's jaw tightened. It wasn't random. It was a message. And it meant Colby had found them. He ran inside, double-checked the locks, and turned on all the security cameras. He didn't tell Rachel right away. He didn't want her to panic. But deep inside, he knew this wasn't over. It had just started again. That night, Keanu couldn't sleep. He sat by the window with a baseball bat in hand, watching the darkness like it might move. At 3:47 a.m., his phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. "You took something from me. I'll take it back. You can't protect them forever." He stared at the screen. breathing slowly. No more waiting. No more hiding. He picked up the phone and made a call to someone he hadn't spoken to in years. A man who owed him a favor. I need help, Keanu said into the phone. Someone's coming, and this time, we end it. Asterisk the man from Keanu's past. Next day, a quiet black SUV pulled into Keanu's driveway. The man who stepped out wasn't a bodyguard or a celebrity. He was plain-looking, in his late 40s, with a calm but firm face. His name was Eli. Keanu had known him for over 20 years. They had trained together back when Keanu was preparing for one of his first big action roles. But Eli wasn't an actor. He was the real thing, a former security consultant. Special tactics, off the radar now but still sharp, still watching. Keanu opened the door before Eli could knock. Thank you for coming, Eli nodded. You said she and the girl are in danger? Keanu told him everything. The alley, the rescue, the reunion, and now the threat. He showed him the message, the scratch word on the fence. Eli listened in silence. Then he walked through the house, inspecting windows, exits, blind spots. This place isn't safe anymore, Eli said. He's testing you, watching, waiting for you to let your guard down. We need to move them, Keanu agreed. They packed what they could in under 20 minutes. Rachel didn't argue. Her face was pale when Keanu finally told her about the message on the fence. Emma just held her little stuffed dog tighter and stayed quiet. Eli led them to a safe house outside the city. Small, hidden, and built for privacy. Thick walls, reinforced doors, a single road in, and no easy way out. Perfect for protection, not so perfect for comfort. But safety mattered more now. Once inside, Eli set up cameras and sensors, motion detectors, along the driveway. Panic buttons in every room. We'll sleep in shifts, he said. I'll take first watch. Keanu nodded. That night, as the rain began to fall again, Keanu sat beside Rachel at the kitchen table. The silence was heavy between them. I should have protected her, Rachel whispered. You did, Keanu said softly. You survived, you escaped, you brought her back. Rachel's eyes met his. She doesn't talk much anymore, not like she used to. Give her time, Keanu said. She still smiles when she draws. Rachel looked down. Do you think she'll ever feel normal again? Keanu didn't answer right away. He thought about his own scars, the ones no one could see, the grief he had carried for so many years. Maybe not normal, he said, but whole, yes. She can feel whole again, and safe. Rachel wiped a tear from her cheek. Thank you for not walking away. Keanu smiled gently. I couldn't. I think she came into my life for a reason. But their calm didn't last. At 2:15 a.m., the power went out. Not just a flicker, complete darkness. Eli moved fast, flashlight in hand. He checked the breakers. Someone had cut the external line. Then, through the thermal camera at the front door, he saw two shapes approaching the house. They're here, he said. Keanu grabbed the bat. Eli handed him a small canister. Pepper fog. Use it only if you have to. Rachel pulled Emma into the safe room, a hidden space behind the bookshelf, and locked it from inside. The front door shook. Once, twice, then it crashed open. Colby stepped into the house. He wasn't alone. One other man followed behind, both wearing gloves and black masks. Keanu stood in the center of the living room, breathing steady. It's over, Colby. The police are coming. Colby laughed. You think I'm afraid of sirens? He stepped closer, knife in hand. You should have stayed out of this, Reeves. Keanu didn't back down. You shouldn't have hurt a child, he said. The next few moments happened fast. Eli dropped from the upstairs railing like a shadow. Tackling the second man, Keanu lunged at Colby, blocking the knife with his arm and forcing the fight into the hallway. Fists, grunts, pain. Keanu took a deep cut to his forearm, but he didn't stop. He threw Colby against the wall. Once, twice, then used the pepper fog in a burst to the face. Colby screamed. Eli had already disarmed the second man. Sirens echoed in the distance. Louder, closer. The men were restrained just as red and blue lights filled the dark. An hour later, the house was quiet again. Police had taken Colby and his partner into custody. Rachel sat holding Emma in the safe room, whispering lullabies through tears. Keanu sat beside Eli, holding a bandage to his arm. "You're getting slow," Eli teased. Keanu smiled faintly. "Or just getting older." Eli looked at him. "You did good, man. You saved her again." Keanu nodded. But deep inside, something had changed. He didn't feel like a rescuer anymore. He felt like something else. A protector. A guardian. Maybe even a father. And tomorrow, he would have to make the hardest decision of all. Not to walk away, but to stay. The decision that changed everything. Morning after the attack, sunlight crept gently through the safe house windows. It touched the walls softly, like the world itself was trying to say, "You made it." Outside, birds sang as if they had no idea what had happened just hours before. Keanu stood by the kitchen sink, washing blood off his arm. The cut stung, but it was shallow, not as deep as the thoughts running through his head. He stared out the window, watching the empty road beyond the trees. Behind him, Rachel sat on the couch with Emma asleep in her lap. The little girl's breathing was soft and even, her small hands curled around the stuffed dog like it was her shield. Eli packed his bag in the corner. "They'll be safe now," he said. "Those men are going away for a long time." Rachel gave a full statement. "And with your testimony, the case is solid." Keanu nodded. "Thank you. I couldn't have done this without you." Eli looked at him for a moment. "You could have walked away, but you didn't." Keanu didn't respond. He didn't need to. He just looked over at Emma. A few days later, back at the city office, Child Services arranged a formal meeting. Rachel was given full custody, pending follow-up visits. She had proven her case, her injuries, her story, her love for Emma. But before they left, the caseworker pulled Keanu aside. She wrote something. The woman said, handing him a folded sheet of paper. He opened it. It was from Emma. "Dear K, you saved me 2 times. The first time was in the alley. The second time was when you didn't go away. I used to have bad dreams every night, but now I don't, because when I wake up, I remember your hugs and your voice and your silly jokes. I asked Mama if you can still visit me sometimes. She said yes. I hope you say yes too, love." Emma. Keanu sat down in the hallway and let the tears fall freely. He had always thought his life was about the roles he played, the scripts, the red carpets, the expectations. But here was a child asking him not to be a hero, not to be famous, but simply to stay. Later that week, Rachel and Emma moved into a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't fancy, but it had big windows and warm light. Keanu helped them carry boxes. He put together the dining table himself, even though he wasn't very good with tools. Rachel laughed when he put one leg on backwards. He laughed too. Emma painted a picture on the living room wall. It was 3 stick figures again, her mom, and Keanu. This time, all of them held hands. "This is our team," she said, and Keanu couldn't argue. Months passed. Keanu kept visiting, at first once a week, then twice. Sometimes they went to the park. Sometimes they stayed in and baked cookies. Sometimes he read her bedtime stories when Rachel was too tired. On Emma's 8th birthday, Keanu brought her a music box. Inside was a spinning ballerina. She opened it and gasped, "This is just like my mom's," she whispered. Rachel teared up. "How did you know?" Keanu smiled. "She told me once in the car." I remembered. Emma hugged him tight. Then she looked up with bright eyes. "Can you stay for the cake?" Keanu looked at Rachel. She nodded. "I'd love to," he said. One night, weeks later, Keanu sat on the couch with Emma asleep beside him. Rachel sat in the chair across the room, sipping tea. "She's different now," Rachel said. "Lighter, more like a kid." Again, Keanu nodded. "She's strong." Rachel smiled. "So are you?" He looked down at Emma. "I didn't know I needed this, not until it happened. Then maybe it happened for a reason." There was a long silence. Then Keanu looked up. "Would it be okay if I became something more permanent in her life?" Rachel put her cup down slowly. "What do you mean? Not just visits, not just birthdays. Something steady, a guardian, a father figure, whatever you think is right." Rachel's eyes filled. She didn't say yes with words. She just nodded. Years passed. Emma grew. Her drawings got better. Her smile got bigger. She told everyone at school that Kay was her family. Not because he rescued her, but because he stayed. Because he never made her feel small. Because he loved her with no conditions. Keanu never stopped acting. But the roles changed. The stories changed. He stopped playing heroes in make-believe worlds because he had already become one in the real one. And that mattered more. So much more.